2024 was a steep learning curve about leadership for me. I've really grown in my capacity to influence and lead people towards the way of Jesus. And I think a huge part of that are these 3 books that were just water to my thirsty soul. 2 of them are very scriptural, very biblically based. And then one is just a general leadership book that I got from one of my coaches who's helping me with staff culture in organizations. So the first one that I want to share, my favorite leadership book of 2024, was Tempered Resilience by Todd Bolsinger. I read his book a couple years ago, actually on one of the worst days of my life. That's a long story. Comment below if you want to learn about that story. But his book, Canoeing in the Mountains, I thought was so good to help pastor and lead this cultural moment. Well, I think Tempered Resilience is even better. I am very much fighting the temptation to use these videos as like a essay. Like, you're not my professor, okay? So I don't have to give the full thesis. I'm just going to give you a couple takeaways that really stuck with me. One was in the very beginning of the book, he talks about just the call to leadership. And he says, I'll even give the quote, "Resistance is the key difference between management and leadership. Good management is usually met with a grateful response from those whom we manage. Leadership is often met with stubborn resistance from the very people we are called to lead." It's this idea that if we are truly leading people, leading is disappointing people at a rate they can handle. This has been hard for me. This was another profound thought I thought about this year. I used to say I love to please people, right? I love to make sure everybody's happy, and that's true. But I really dug in deeper and really that kind of was unearthed by reading this book. I didn't so much love to please people. I just love when people love me. So it's a lot more selfish. I think it really sounds really kind and nice when I say like, oh, I just want to please everybody in the room. The other idea was that leaders can't do that. Look at the life of Moses. Look at the life of Joshua, David, Jesus. It's just impossible. This book helped me realize I have to be compassionate, but also courageous. God gave me a lot of real life examples to operate in that this year, and it was very helpful. Another key idea from this book that really did change my paradigm and my understanding of who I am as a leader. He says that resilient leadership isn't found, it's forged. I love that because I think naturally for me, as I just look back at my ministry, I have led primarily by preaching, but I wasn't necessarily a great leader. Now, a lot of that's because of just the size dynamic. You know, when you're a church of 40, when you're a church of 70, you're not really having that many staff meetings. Like, you can't really flex some of that leadership muscle. There's not as many issues and complex problems and situations. There's no organizational charts. You're just kind of shepherding the people right in front of you. And so as we have grown, I've been grateful that I get to like flex this leadership muscle, but also realizing, these are some muscles I've never worked out before. But I've been so encouraged because his encouragement in this book is supposed to feel overwhelming. That's what leadership is. You have to grow into it. It's not something that just falls from the sky. Now, there is this idea of a spiritual gift, and I think the Lord does give us these gifts, these graces that help us lead in moments, but a lot of the way that the Lord designs us is to put us through the fire, to forge us. And so that just gave me a lot of courage. That just gave me a lot of hope to persist this year. So that's my favorite book, number 1 in all of 2024, but also in leadership, is Tempered Resilience by Todd Bolsinger. The second book that I've been telling everybody about, and it might be my second favorite book of the year, this year was all about leadership for me, was Jonathan Sacks' Lessons in Leadership. He is a rabbi, and so he is giving these meditations and reflections on the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible. And so I really loved his Jewish perspective. I think sometimes it's just really good to sit at the feet of a Jewish rabbi that understands some of that culture more than I do. And he had so many insights about leadership, and he's had so much experience leading leaders, and I thought it was fascinating. One thing that kind of ties into what we were just talking about in this last book, this quote was the following: "Leading forces you to develop muscles you didn't know you had. It changes you. It gives you strength and courage and the willingness to take risks. It teaches you emotional intelligence and the ability to see the good, often the great, in other people." I feel that. I feel that so much this past year, and I'm really grateful that this book gave me that kind of mindset and mentality. Recently, I heard somebody very influential and somebody I care about a lot kind of mention how they decided never to pastor because they realized they didn't have the emotional intelligence or health or maturity, or they just couldn't deal with criticism that comes with the pastorate. And this is a reminder, and I'm on this side where it's like, I don't think any of us have that ability within themselves. I think it's a beautiful opportunity, though, you have to grow, and you have to feel constantly like you're overwhelmed. And so you have to depend on God and God alone. And so I felt that a lot this year, but this book was a reminder. It gave me permission to say, that's okay. Like, that's a part of the gig. Another funny line I thought was so good. He said, few things make a leader more unpopular than the pursuit of popularity. We don't lead by, and now Jason Mayfield's calling me to stop my YouTube video. Leaders don't lead by consensus, they lead by conviction. And you see that in so many of the stories of the biblical text. Let's answer this phone call. I'm finally making a YouTube video, and then you call me. Oh, dang it. Shoot, I missed all of that because I have terrible data. Are you there?
I cursed a lot.
One more, just key insight. I'm telling you, you have to read this book. A key insight. Here's a quote. In today's terminology, a leader needs emotional intelligence. Daniel Goleman, best known for his work in this field, argues that, I put this in bold, one of the most important tasks of a leader is to shape and lift the mood of a team. Here's the quote from Daniel Goleman. Great leaders move us. They ignite our passion and inspire the best in us. When we try to explain why they're so effective, we speak of strategy, vision, or powerful ideas, but the reality is much more primal. Great leadership works through the emotions. And that ties into my book, The Non-Anxious Pastor. I think it's so important for us to maintain a non-anxious presence, and that kind of emotional stability and joy is what stabilizes and inspires your group, the people you lead, and a pastor, your congregation. The last book that was helpful for me, and I think I actually have it here as well. This one kind of is left field, but my coach, he has a lot of experience in the business world. He's also a missionary kid and highly involved in ministry. Honestly, if you are kind of like a small to mid-church, mid-size pastor, reach out to me if you're looking for a coach to help with culture, organizational leadership stuff. This coach has been tremendously helpful. One book he recommended was Measure What Matters by John Doerr. And this is essentially, it's a business book, so a lot of non-Christians read this. But one thing that was helpful is just this idea of helping our staff, our people who work for us, really lay out expectations and continue to uphold accountability. Something that I have never done until this year was have 90-day, we call it fads. In this book, it would be OKRs. We call them fads because they come and go, but the FAD stands for Focus Area Document. And we establish at least 3 goals, and then we give key results to make sure that goal was achieved within those 90 days. And it's a great way to help people know they're winning within your organization. This stuff has been so fun for me to learn. I have my own fads. Everybody on our team has fads, and it's a great way to generate conversation and really come into meetings with real clarity. So this book was helpful in just talking about the history of OKRs and how it's helped really align teams. And I think the big win for me in my understanding is this is really scalable. It really helps grow your team and keep it unified at the same time, because one of the worst things that can happen as you grow your church or your organization is you begin to have silos where they're out doing their own thing and they don't understand how we're all winning towards the same goal. So those are my 3 favorite leadership books of 2024. Comment below any questions you may have or thoughts or any pushback if you've read those books. I probably have some pushback as well, but that's not what this video is for. And I'll see you in the next one. The next one's going to be my favorite formation books in 2024. Thank you for watching today's video. This is the video I think you should watch. This is the video YouTube says you should watch.